Hi, I'm Kiara Marie, and I'm talking today about the CNN article that I had in the travel section. It's still there. The date is September 17th, so it's been there for about half a month. And I want to talk about some of the things that didn't make it into the article that were discussing my move to France. And here's some things that I'll just tell you about my experience here in France and how it might compare to the US, and why I appreciate living in France. So, and a couple of things I did wrong. And here's something that I want to tell you about. I came from the San Francisco area, so my flight was out of SFO into Charles de Gaulle, which is in Paris, and I flew with 2 cats. So something you might be aware if you are traveling with pets and you're moving overseas, it's 1 person, 1 pet on every airline. I found that without exception, and I had 2 pets. So if you're traveling as a couple, you each could have a pet in the cabin I'm talking about. I was not going to put them in the cargo. And so I had to buy an extra seat. So the price of 2 seats, and then doing everything you need to do to make sure your animals can be brought into a foreign country, and that involves the Department of Agriculture in the US and getting health certificates and all that, which can be a bit of a stress point in the US. And it certainly was for me, but that can be for another video. When I booked my flights, I could not find another flight out of Charles de Gaulle to the south where I could take my 2 pets on board. Those are, more localized airlines, and I just couldn't find anything that would work. So I reserved a car rental in advance and was just gonna do because I had suitcases and whatnot, I was just gonna do the flight, get a car, and drive to the south. I did not know it would take me more than 6 hours, I think it took me a total of 9. It was like 8 hours by the time I got to the south, and then I had to drive to find my Airbnb. I was not prepared for this drive. I come from San Francisco, which is a hell of a long flight, to Charles de Gaulle. I land in the airport. I got to find the car rental place, and I have to go through customs and all of that, and it was probably about an hour in the airport location, and then I leave and I'm already tired. It's daytime, thank God, and I am driving. It was good weather, but now I'm driving manual car, transmission. Manuals are not hard to drive, even though the last time I drove one was as a kid. They're made so much differently now than back in the day when I was learning on them. French navigation, I didn't have it translated. Unfortunately, I didn't figure that one out, which is okay. I've had French, so I wasn't totally screwed. And I had my GPS as well. But the long drive, and I had 2 cats, so I did not want to stop for very long. I was exhausted. I was so exhausted that by the time I got to the Airbnb, I remember at some point folding out a blanket on the bed and going, oh my God, this is so weird. They have the same blanket I do. And then I'm like, about 15 minutes later, I'm like, this is my blanket. So anyway, I don't recommend. I was delirious. I really recommend taking your time, maybe even staying overnight at a hotel in the Paris metropolitan area, before you get into a car and do a long drive after coming in. So there was that mistake. But once I got to France, I just marveled. Well, number one, the peace of knowing there's no, that's my cat. Puccini, come here, honey. There's no gun possibility that's going to happen to you. So getting into places where there's, people gathered and stuff like that, I actually stopped doing that in the US. I wasn't going to movie theaters. I was wary about just being in heavily trafficked areas where, like squares and whatnot, whether it be, somewhere in San Francisco or the Bay Area, because there is no way to know if something bad will happen. But once you get here, it's completely non-existent. And I could just feel the stress like leaving my body, knowing that I was safe, basically. And the peacefulness too, because everything is so toned down to like a human level, as opposed to oversized rush level. It actually just has a calming effect on your nervous system. And I was in the Montpellier area, but more in the there was like a smaller village that I was first in. And I think for the first 2 months I was there for 2 months. It was quite a small village, and there's no way I even need to go back there again. But I can remember the first 2 months being there. I would lie down and look out the huge, they have these big old windows because we're in these old structures, and the windows are massive. And just like the breeze coming through and seeing the greenery outside. And there's a little bit more humidity here than California. It's not humid like the East Coast. It's like beautifully in between. And I'm just lying there, and this is October of 2024, and I'm lying there and I'm like, I just felt like I could do this forever. And I thought, if that was my existence forever, I would be fine with it, which after a while I was like, okay, time to move on, like after a month. But I didn't know I needed that level of decompression, but I really needed it. I was so wound up between just my job. I had to I got rid of all my possessions while I was still working. I was getting my Social Security going. I had to do all of this stuff, and I had a flight date. So everything, like this is like the year prior, just getting rid of everything like within an 8-month period was a lot. I'm either donating it, throwing it at people, here, take it, like Facebook Marketplace, like it's all these different avenues, charities. I was on the go constantly, but that decompression and just it was like being thrown into a completely other universe here, one where it's almost like you wake up and you're in like this utopian dream, and you're like, here I am. It was really something else. So, and from there, I was in a place called Tehran. Tehran, Iran is somewhere else, different spelling. And then from there, I went to a beach community called Grande-Motte. Grande-Motte is a revelation. The Grande-Motte means the big mound. And this is an entire community built by one architect back in the 70s. And it's on the beach, and I believe it was like some kind of, like as a lot of stuff from decades ago, was not valued beach property, and it may have been more industrial, like even with landfills. And then they decide to make it into a community. And I swear, the period, when they first built it, people were outraged because it was so, to me, it's like a Jackson Pollock painting, being among a Jackson Pollock work. It's not like Jackson Pollock, but it feels of that period of just this vibrancy. It's in this modernist style. The architect who, I will post his name in the show notes, he designed it down to the bathroom stalls on the beach. He designed everything about it, the town hall, the church, all the buildings, and he also made them, he was inspired by the Mayan pyramids in Mexico. So a lot of them have this pyramid type structure, but it's this playfulness and these shapes, and I would walk around like this. I will definitely go back there as my beach community. The beaches themselves remind me of the Hamptons on Long Island, just white sandy beaches with like the dunes with the grass and the little fencing, which, you know, catches the dunes so that they don't just keep drifting. The water's beautiful. It's astonishing. And I was able to rent a bike when I was there, and there's a lot of beach, and I would spend my time riding. It's like a boardwalk, but it's the cement path that would just take you from quite a few towns, not just La Grande-Motte itself. I cannot speak highly enough about this amazing place. So while in La Grande-Motte, I was there for Christmas, and we had a Christmas celebration where they built a Christmas village, literally bringing the lumber in and the men making the houses and whatnot out of the lumber right on site, so you could smell the freshly shaved wood from their work while you know they're setting it up. So this huge Christmas village that was an extravaganza, and then every night it is a vacation spot, so people would come from all over. The weekends always were filled with people, and this is during the winter months. They knew how to really keep the place lively year round, unlike, you know, some places. Like I grew up in Connecticut, and you know, Rhode Island would be kind of just dead on the weekends as a summer place because they didn't keep it going. But here it was unbelievable. And then for Christmas, they had what they call the 500 drones show over the I'm calling it the ocean, it's the Mediterranean. Over the water, these little tiny dots that just created all kinds of shapes and whatnot in the sky, in the night sky, like Santa and his sleigh and the reindeer, and it would transform into, you know, a big bow and then bell, like all of this stuff set to music. They brought in a really great sound speaker, and then they did also have fireworks. You know, they didn't go crazy with the whole thing being fireworks, but fireworks were set off at the end, and the beach was filled with people standing shoulder to shoulder. And this is the first time I'm with French people. I'm like the only English person there, really, because it's the off season. And they were so respectful of each other in you know, even though crowded together, again, no fear of anything happening, just like whispering or talking quietly with each other. It was unlike anything I experienced. And you have the water and the lights and the shimmering on the water, and people talking in the beautiful French language, just this peacefulness that you're not going to experience in the US of so many people that are close together. It felt like one big family watching your home movie screen, and there were hundreds of us. And, you know, at the end, people leave quietly to go to their cars. I I had tears. I had tears in my eyes. I was like, where have I landed? And I have to always, because you can tend to do a reset, I know I do, and you hear this talked about, like you kind of have a reset position of happiness. And I could have a reset position of just going back to, quote, my normal state, which is fine, but I prefer to remind myself to live in this, it's not a state, but to live in gratitude, like always remember these peak moments and try to find gratitude each day, because I'm getting a lot of these moments here where I'm just like overwhelmed and feeling so thankful that I am here, that it's really a reminder of how gratitude will change how you feel and how you walk around in life. And I have so many of these moments now that I'm gathering and living in France. And this was just one of those times where it was a marvel to me. It was an absolute marvel, and I will never forget it. And again, these are generally moments that are unexpected, where the emotion just kind of comes over you and you're like, because I did not know that I would be in a place where I was going to have that sort of experience with that community of people, again, hundreds, and it's not even just the French, it's like Germany, Germans come to that location, and UK people, and people that find that is a quick beach vacation. And it's just so different than from the US. What can I say? It's so different, and so something that I never knew was an experience I was going to have. So it was overwhelming in the moment of these types of experiences await me, because I am in a whole new place now where such things like this will happen, and have been. None of this stuff is something I had anticipated from the States. So that's what I'm going to say for today's video, and I hope you'll be back for more when I talk about some more of the things that did not make it into the CNN travel article. Next time, bye.